Hello, Guardians. It is Ebontis. It is April 21st. I am back in town, of which many of you guys have probably seen that video for the Breakneck mission. But Xur is here. He is on Nessus. He is up here in Watcher's Grave, up in his tree fort, kind of in this area here. So let's go through the weapons first, and then we'll go class by class for all of the armor. First, we've got Chroma Rush. It is an older kinetic auto rifle, and I think there are just better ones now that you can get for different purposes. Moving target, kind of PvP, Adrenaline Junkie, not bad. Reload spec here with some stability, some reload, some range. It's not a bad roll, but I think there's better. It's nothing to write home about. Nature of the Beast hand cannon, also an older hand cannon, and when you got hip fire grip on one, not really excited about it. Brass attacks, fun little sidearm. You got frenzy, surplus, decent amount of range on this thing. It's fine, but again, it's only for very specific use cases you might want this for. Nothing exciting here. NEZAREC'S Whisper, if you don't have an Arc Legendary Glaive, it's probably good to have at least one of those. It does have adaptive munitions, lead from gold. Not a bad perk combination. You've got Alloy Mag. Again, if you don't have an Arc Legendary Glaive, probably should have one, so make sure you buy this. Otherwise, you probably crafted one last year. Not a bad little PvE shotgun, rapid fire, incandescent, threat detector, tactical mag. I mean, you're doing okay here for a PvE shotgun. I don't know if it's one that I really find much of a use for, but if you do, not a bad one. Bump in the Night. If you did not get this last year, for one, looks really cool. Two, it's a rocket launcher with chill clip. Now, it's not like the God roll with, a couple other options that you have here, but a chill clip rocket launcher right now is a good thing to own. So if you don't own one at all, you definitely should buy this one and tuck it in the vault. Seems like Xur is selling one of each class sword each week. So far, they have all been terrible. I've slowly been kind of cycling through each of them, but whether it's Quickfang, Eternity's Edge, or the Titan 1 Crown Splitter, none of these have great rolls, so you can skip them all. For exotics, we've got Hawkmoon with Heavy Grip, Killing Wind, and Fluted Barrel. So you're increasing handling speed to decrease handling speed. You're going to get a decent amount of stability out of this one, but again, when these two counteract each other, that alone doesn't make it a god roll. And for Dead Man's Tale, Snapshot Sight's probably not bad. Some stability and some range, but then you give up stability. Again, I don't like stats that counteract each other, so if you're looking for a god roll, I don't think either of these are it. Also remember, if you don't have an exotic cipher, pick this thing up so as you're doing Crucible matches, Gambit matches, strikes, that you are working on this one, because exotic ciphers are one of those currencies we're eventually going to need to start having now. So make sure you're working on this one, at least have one on you. As for the exotic weapon itself for the week, Wardcliff Coil. If you don't own it, you should. Now, it's not like top of the meta right now per se, but it is still one of those rare moments where sometimes this just finds a really good purpose. So if you don't own this exotic for some reason, you should own it. Guaranteed for whatever the future may hold. All right, for the Titan, we've got one that's decent with the 63 on the leg armor. You have a spike in resilience and strength. Mobility is not too wasted. Some recovery, some discipline, not too shabby. While you have 64, 61, and 62 on the other pieces, the low resilience on the helm, can't really go with that one, and the 19 in mobility and 15 in mobility also make those passable for me. Unless you're a brand new player, you can skip most of this. The Insurmountable Skull Fort with 65. Now, you are arc melees, grant health and melee energy with a 22 spike there. You've got some resilience, some recovery, and some mobility, as this is going to be more of a PvP exotic. The mobility is not completely wasted there, so you've got a little more movement speed. Not a bad Insurmountable Skull Fort if that's what you're looking for, especially for a PvP build. I've seen much worse, so if you're newer, looking for a decent one, that is a pretty good place to start. For the Warlock, we do again have some mobility, which isn't my favorite, but you're looking at a couple that are 66s. Now, the 59 you can just pass on. The 61 with 15 mobility and high intellect, also not great. But if you're a newer player and you just need to boost up some of your stats, those 66s are not awful. You're not getting a lot in discipline, which I know Warlocks would want, but if you're a newer player trying to just boost some total stats in general, mobility, resilience, recovery, intellect, and strength all getting some love. Not a bad way to spend about 50 shards if you're new and you've got some shards to spend. You might pick those up and then, kind of replace them as you get better stuff. As for the exotic, you've got Ophidian Aspect, basically improves weapon ready, reload, and melee range. You've got high melee, some resilience, some recovery, not a lot of mobility, but you've got stats in some decently right places for PvP or PvE. That's more of a PvP exotic though, so it's still actually pretty good. All in all, if you're newer and you don't have one of those, I think that's a pretty common exotic, so definitely pick it up. For the Hunters, you've got a 64 with basically next to no mobility. Now, depending on your build, you're going to want some mobility for a Hunter basically all the time. So it's weird the other two have mobility, and now the Hunter, 3 out of the 4 pieces are single digits, which kind of sucks. If you're looking for a resilience build, this is a decent amount of stuff to look into, though. If you need resilience in a certain slot, especially that chest armor, resilience, discipline, and strength, going to get you some ability recharge and some PvE with a little bit of mobility, at least on that one. The 59 legs you can skip, but the 62 and the 64, without the mobility, that really hurts a hunter, especially if your dodges it's around a lot of builds. But the resilience, recovery, discipline, intellect kind of spikes you've got on those two. If you need a certain spot and you're still trying to boost up your resilience for PvE, might check on some of these pieces if they fit your build. As for the Hunter of the Bombardiers, dodging leaves behind an explosive that detonates after a short delay, damaging targets around it. Depending on what subclass you're using, it has a different type of explosion. It is a 64 total with recovery, mobility, some discipline, strength. It's honestly one you should own with a 64 stat total. Being a PvP exotic, probably more so with mobility and recovery, it is a good place to start. You could probably tweak the stats a little better, but not a bad place to begin. And that pretty much wraps it up for Xur. So not too much going on with Xur this weekend. I am working on kind of doing a Legend Avalon guide, and then I'll probably be streaming Dredge off and on this weekend. So come check me out on twitch.tv/Ebontis or Twitter. If you're new to the channel, though, and you enjoy the content from me, and if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button, hit the alert bell, and if you enjoyed this one, drop a like or say hello in the comments. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you soon.